Expanding and scaling your business on Amazon is one of probably the hardest things that you can do as an Amazon seller. But of course, once you get started on Amazon, your vision and your mission is to create a really good business that you can potentially sell or even expand to other marketplaces maybe. In this episode of Power Your E-commerce Business, I'm interviewing Sebastian Stanley Jones from Accel Club, one of the top Amazon aggregators in the world. We're going to be discussing how you can create a roadmap that can help you expand your business. What options do you have in order to expand your business on Amazon, whether you want to do it globally, you want to stay in your own market, what different formats and things to look out for once you are developing your very own business on Amazon. Let's get started. Welcome to Power Your E-commerce Business, the go-to series for busy entrepreneurs like you. Product research, sales, marketing, branding, shipping and logistics. We share knowledge and information every week from top experts serving the MENA region to help you power your e-commerce business. So Sebastian, of course, everyone that starts selling on Amazon, even maybe from day one, starts to think, great, now what? How can I expand? How can I grow my business? And that's exactly what we're going to be dissecting in this video. We're going to be talking about 3 steps, 3 paths, lots of information and knowledge from you. But before we get started, please introduce yourself and introduce Accel Club as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. And let me give a brief introduction about myself. So I'm the Director of Global Business Development here at Accel. Prior to this, I was actually Director of Business Development at another aggregator called Moonshot Brands. Great set of guys as well. Prior to that, I was actually one of the original members of the ClearBank team or the ClearCo team, which are the market leaders in alternative financing for e-commerce brands. Help scale them up from roughly a 16 million seed valuation to 2.5 billion valuation on the back of the SoftBank secondary, which would make them the largest investment by SoftBank in Canadian history. So that's just a little bit about my background. So I've been in this e-commerce space now for roughly 6 years. I've seen different sides of the e-commerce business. I've seen sort of the direct consumer side, seen a lot of the omni-channel approach, done a lot of this FBA things on the aggregator side. And I have a pretty robust and sort of well-rounded experience just watching brands grow and accelerate over this, this last 5 years or 6 years, where things have been obviously ever changing. COVID was a massive accelerator for many people, but it's been interesting to navigate this ecosystem as it constantly changes. So that's just a bit about my background and Accel Club.
So you're the perfect person to talk about accelerating. But yeah, continue.
I hope I'm a decent person at least to discuss.
You are.
But yeah, just a quick overview about Accel. So Accel Club is an aggregator. There's many aggregators in the business at the moment. I would say that some of the key features of us is we're a larger aggregator. So we're in the top 20 by capital raised. And where I think we excel, no pun intended, is our headcount. So we actually have over 135 people and of that, 85% are operationally focused. So that's very different to the wider market, which is typically more heavy on the business development, on the M&A and the legal front. One couple, quick points about us. All of our expertise and functionality is in-house. So we don't use any third party. We don't use any service providers. We actually build the skill set internally and we learn from our own mistakes, which I think is excellent. We have more than 500 SKUs in our operation. We've done double-digit year-over-year growth of EBITDA. And actually across our portfolio, it's a 70% year-over-year growth of the brands that we've acquired. Yeah, so we're aggressive in the market at the moment, and definitely one of the larger players by headcount, and definitely one of the more operationally savvy players in the market. So I'll just pause there. That's a quick overview of us.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about how you acquire brands and what exactly you're looking for to add to your portfolio. But let's get started with what we decided together was something that we find a lot of sellers constantly talk about, because We both feel that once you start your Amazon journey, you're absolutely hooked. You're like, that's it. That's all I want to do. But from perspective of, if my intention is to grow a business to a point where somebody might acquire it or I might sell it, let's reverse engineer it and think, okay, what are the necessary steps that I should take in order to get to that end goal? Mm-hmm. So how is the best way for someone, because you've got so many different paths. What do you think is the best path? If there's one, I'm sure there's several. If I would come to you and say, okay, I want to expand my business. Should I do it globally? Should I do it SKU wise? Let's get started.
Okay. So this is a difficult question. So obviously there's so many different paths that you can take. I would say sometimes it's great to, like you said, reverse engineer it and come back or start from the point that you want to achieve, which is, what is your desired outcome? Is the desired outcome a lucrative exit? So if that is the case, which I hope for most people, that is, the inevitable sort of conclusion is you get this business to a certain size and then you would like to exit and get, take some chips off the table, reward yourself for the hard work that you put in. So I would say there's three ways of looking at getting to this final exit, this final sale of the business. And I would kind of organize them into three main. There's the path of least resistance. There's the building a lifestyle business. And there's the sort of selling to a strategic. So I think it's important to understand there's so many different ways to skin this cat. You can do things, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way. I think it's constantly changing too. I think we always have to be aware of what are the macro factors that are affecting the growth of the business. So before I kind of dive into these three paths, I will say, we're all moving towards an omni-channel business approach. So right now, we're not quite there yet, right? As far as the buyers are concerned, we as the buyers, we're not ready to reward over complex businesses. So we are very much focused still on Amazon, but obviously omni-channel is the future, right? We want to diversify our channels. We want to diversify our marketplaces. Being solely dependent on Amazon long-term might not be the best strategy, but for now it is still by far the largest and most lucrative marketplace. So omni-channel is kind of how I look at things long-term, but I think understanding how you want to, getting to your exit is a really good way to look at growing your business, because then you can kind of tick off all the necessary items to get to that lucrative exit. So there's the path of least resistance. This is, I kind of define this as selling to an aggregator, selling to a professional buying outfit like ourselves. We're very fast, we're very transparent, and we're very aggressive. So when I say path of least resistance, it means that selling to us is very easy. And in order to build your business to get to, or to grow your business to get to that point, what we want people to do is we want you kind of to craft the business for what's best for the aggregator, for us to buy. So you're kind of shaping it with the intention of selling it to a professional buyer, to an aggregator. So I would say with this path, it is the easiest path for sure, and is the fastest path. So typically, 0 to 3 years, you can sell, no problem. Less than 24 months, very difficult, because we need to see some traction. We need to see some historical data to understand the business dynamics. But generally, 0 to 3 years is a great sort of time frame. 3 years is all you really need. If you're planning on going this route and you like the speed, we want you to focus on Amazon Marketplace first and foremost. We want you to focus on a high margin business, low tacos, relatively low SKU count concentration. We want it to be simple. The more simple the business, the better. Overly complex businesses can be extremely lucrative long-term, but they're harder for us as a professional buying outfit to absorb or to digest. So really simple.
Even to add value, maybe.
Even to add value, absolutely. You need multiple skill sets within house to really drive the value and get those operational efficiencies. So great point. Simple is best right now. I would say though, as you're growing your business, if you are currently in a position where you have 1 or 2 hero SKUs or ASINs and you're doing exceptionally well, if 80% of the sales are coming from 1 or 2, I think it is beneficial to expand out. It is beneficial to add new products, not necessarily new geographies, because that's a heavy concentration. It really means that listing is kind of the primary driver of revenue for the business. And if anything were to happen to that listing, then it becomes a systemic risk to your business. So if you have 1 or 2, really great to get to sort of 5 or 6 or even 7, but we do want to keep that concentration down, sort of sub 10 is optimal. So as you're growing your brands, really do think about, okay, what is that risk reward? What is that balancing act of SKU count, concentration, high revenue, high margin, but also not too much concentration on a single or maybe 1 or 2 SKUs. So that's path of least resistance. Very straightforward, very simple, hopefully quite easy to scale, but obviously not easier said than done. The second path you can do is a lifestyle business. And I think this is a totally different approach. So you can still sell, a lifestyle business to an aggregator, but I see a lifestyle business as something you pass down to your children, perhaps. I see it as more of an annuity. It's something you want to kind of have perpetually or in perpetuity. And you build this business for quality of life, right? You don't want to be putting in necessarily 80 hours a week. You want to get the business to a certain threshold where it is generating enough cash, got a high enough margin, and it's relatively automated. So you want to keep it to just yourself, or maybe yourself and your partner, or a very small number of persons working for you. You want to automate a lot of the back-end processes. You want to utilize and leverage third parties because you want to basically have the best work-life balance that you can possibly have and generate enough cash that, this is a nice asset to have and potentially pass down to your children. And if that is the case, the way that you scale that type of business is really focusing on what can you automate, what can you get rid of, what can you outsource, what can you take a third party and bring it in that allows you to have more time with your family or allows you to operate in a more lean capacity. Obviously, you're kind of reducing your fixed costs and increasing your variable costs, but you generally are trading off a little bit less control for more flexibility and relaxation. Still an absolutely great business model, definitely not as easy because understanding the nuances between which service providers to use is difficult. Everybody claims to be the best. You definitely want to do your due diligence. You want to really understand and connect with communities that might be able to support you in this discovery. And I would say, someone like Accel or any other aggregator, we're always happy to suggest service providers that we feel actually are good at the job. And we're always happy to have that conversation. We don't necessarily just have to have a conversation about exits. We're here to support founders through the life cycle of their journey. So that's building a lifestyle business. To be honest with you, I don't see that happening too often. Most people get very passionate about an Amazon business. They get totally, sucked in and they dive headfirst. And typically the lifestyle business is something that I saw in the earlier stages of the Amazon growth. And now people are very much committed and very focused.
Maybe potentially more a passion project where you would be really extremely passionate about the product that you're selling. And that was you're giving out the solution to the world. But it's fantastic that you actually talked about this, Sebastian, because this is just a showcase, and we're going to talk about the third path as well. However, this is just a showcase that there is not a one size fits all to business in general and to Amazon in particular. Like, you can create whatever type of business that you want on Amazon, and like you said, and you put it perfectly, this is not it. You get to decide whatever is right for you, your lifestyle, your business, your goals, your aspirations, your time, whatever you want to do. So perfect.
I think that's a great point. Actually, I just really quickly touch on that. Amazon provides you, and e-commerce in general, digitally native brands provide you the flexibility to be in much more control of the direction of your business. You have so much more optionality than you do with a traditional brick and mortar business. Not to say that those aren't good; they're great too. But it really does provide you with exceptional optionality where you can live where you like. You can take advantage of different tax havens. You can do many things to really pull different levers to sort of optimize your business for whatever it is you're looking to achieve, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's growth, whether it's profitability, whatever the case may be. So the third path would be sort of the selling to a strategic or private equity. So now this is the most difficult path, and typically only undertaken by professional sellers who have probably done this once or twice before. And what they're really doing is they're looking at the market and they're identifying an arbitrage opportunity. So they're identifying an opportunity to bring a product to market that they know a very few and select group of people will buy. So for example, owning a particular category. and really being the leader in that category and tailoring your business to being potentially acquired by somebody who also dominates that category. So for example, a Harry Shave Club, they are as you know, a sort of a subscription box shave service, but they've become so big. And after their blocked deal with Gillette, they actually created an arm of their business to just go out and acquire really interesting CPG brands that are in a high growth phase. So you could literally go and look at this ecosystem of CPG brands and say, okay, I see a gap in women's, aftershave lotion or something along these lines. And you could create a business specifically to sell to Harry Shave Club. And they are always and actively looking in the market for these really interesting brands. And if you're savvy and you can very quickly scale this brand up and get it to a point where a Harry's or other venture arms or other strategic acquirers that are very specific. They're not looking at everything. They're looking only at one or two highly specific niches, and they will pay a very high premium for those niches. So what ends up happening is it's the hardest path because you really do have to focus on the potential buyer. You have to understand what their wants and desires are, and you have to craft and scale the business to fit that. But on the back end, the multiples tend to be extremely high because these buyers don't have the opportunity to go out to the market and find a million different businesses. They can only acquire, let's say, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. So great if you can do it, but not easy. And again, not easy. And I would say in this particular path, you really do want to focus on expansion. So more new markets, I would say, full omni-channel. This is definitely the opposite to the aggregator sale. These strategics are able to digest and take in multiple complexities. So if you're selling on, let's say Walmart, Bowl, Amazon, Etsy, you even have your own D2C, maybe any other marketplace. I think that the strategics are quite appreciative of that diversified business model. So if that is the case, and that's what you're looking to do, definitely keep in mind geographic expansion, lots of new market addition, add-ons, and don't be afraid to launch new products. But again, always be mindful, even with the strategic exit, what does your margin look like? But I would say with strategics, actually top line revenue growth is probably more important than margin improvement. Aggregators, so path of least resistance, prioritize margin. Strategic, if that's your case, you could probably, sacrifice or cannibalize your margin for growth because these strategics, they have, the operations and the skill set to refine your process and really pull out or improve the profitability of the brand post acquisition. So the strategic route is an interesting route. Again, I'd say that it is
very interesting. Yeah,
I would say it's more supportive of a D2C Amazon split than others. Yeah. So I think those, in my opinion, are the 3 main ways of looking at reverse engineering and exit. Now, if you want to jump into different ways you can just generally grow the business, we can absolutely do that. I just wanted to kind of lay out the 3 main paths that can or will most likely lead to an exit.
We've laid out the 3 main paths, and absolutely fantastic. Let's zoom in a little bit more on the first path, especially for someone that is starting out, not necessarily starting out today, but somebody currently selling. They're still at an early stage. The possibilities are endless and limitless. What do you find are the correct actions to take, maybe?
Okay.
In order to basically grow a business the correct way? If there's, there's never a correct way, but I think you know what I mean. What things do you need to strategically look out for? Before we continue any further, if this is your first time watching a video on this channel, hi, my name is Crystal and I'm the founder of Amazon Sellers Society and Sellers Society. And as you can see, we're completely obsessed with selling and with Amazon, and we're focused on the marketplace in the Middle East. If you want a little bit more information about what we do and how we can work with you, you can go ahead and check out our website, www.assmiddleeast.org, and make sure that you subscribe to the channel, you like this video as well, and you leave me a comment in the comment section below if you have any question related to this video or any question related to selling on Amazon in the Middle East. Let's continue.
Okay. So yeah, there's definitely not an absolute correct way, but there are best practices.
Yes.
I think one thing that I see quite often when we're reviewing sellers that I find frustrating as a buyer is the lack of continuity in a listing, in a brand. If you're selling, let's just call it bed sheet protectors or mattress protectors, but you're also selling toothpaste, I mean, that is they don't really align with each other.
Yeah.
So as a buyer, I have to understand what are the very different complexities of these two different types of products and listings, and how do they work together? And if there's no general synergies, and if it doesn't make sense to you, it's probably not going to make sense to us. So we would definitely, something I get frustrated on is I see these great brands who have dominated this particular space, but they've also decided for whatever reason, maybe they had a connection, maybe they saw an opportunity, maybe they liked the product, decided to launch something that was not relevant to the initial listing. I think that can be very difficult. It just means that, we want to, as a buyer, we're going to want to pay for that listing still. It's included into your total profitability and your P&L, but it is not as relevant to the growth. So if you can focus on continuity and synergies, I think that is a great best practice to keep in mind, especially if you're looking to exit to an aggregator, in the near future. Obviously, if you plan on just, operating the business as a lifestyle, and you just typically want to drive up revenue as much as possible,
and that's different.
Adding additional non-related products is not necessarily a bad thing. I just think, though, from an aggregator perspective, we get frustrated when we see these great listings that have multiple products that don't really make sense. So I think continuity is a great thing to look at. Another thing as you're growing your brand is never be attracted or roll the dice on black cat or gray hat tactics. So anything that may jeopardize your Amazon account health is an absolute no, even if you know that may result in some explosive growth short term. And again, the reason is simple. As a buyer, we're looking at an asset as its entirety. How defensible is it? How much longevity does that asset have? If there's any question about that listing being delisted, obviously, number one, reviews being pulled back, flags from Amazon that pull into question the value of that brand long term, or its safety long term, there's a very high likelihood that we would not buy. So I really hope to people, to stress this more than anything. Amazon account health, even if you have to grow slowly, is far more important than that explosive growth by employing tactics that may get you put on a bad list. And people are, just so everyone's aware, Amazon is cracking down more on this and becoming increasingly customer centric. And if you are employing these tactics, you just need to be very aware that even retroactively, penalties can be applied. So it's not as if you can kind of, I've dodged a bullet, I was able to do it, and everything's good. That's not necessarily the truth. So something to be very aware of as you grow your brand. Account health is a key component.
We talked a little bit also about automation. And I know as entrepreneurs and anybody that starts their own business, you think you're the only one that can do things right. And you think you're the only one that has, maybe not do things right, but you're the only one that has the passion, skin in the game, that's going to spend, hours and hours working out the best path, the best solution to a potential problem. However, I think if you want to grow any business, you need to work smarter and not harder. And I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this video understand what I'm saying. However, maybe they're not really, they just don't know how to do it. So we talked about automation and automate your business as much as possible. Can we dive a little bit deeper into that, Sebastian?
Sure. I think the overarching concept here is it's never a bad thing to ask for help. You're absolutely right. I would argue for many of the processes that these sellers undertake, their personal commitment, passion, and understanding of the business would trump or be better than a third party coming in. However, you can't be good at everything. It's impossible. And knowing which areas of the business of the brand that you're not necessarily as good at, if it's PPC, if it's supply chain optimization, if it's reverse logistics, if it's taxation, there are so many different service providers out there that can come in and literally take that responsibility off your plate for a very minimal fee or a cost, And that will allow you as the founder and the owner to focus on what you're really good at, which might be marketing, which might be product development, which might be new, geographic expansion. I would always argue mitigate your risks, maximize your strengths. And you can do that through automation. And again, automation is just an umbrella term for, are there certain things that you can outsource? Are there certain things that you can have someone else do very easily and simply? There's tons of technology floating around and being introduced to the market on a daily basis, honestly.
Yes.
And I do agree and would stress that you have to do your diligence and understand, what is the level of efficacy of these programs and these softwares and these people and service providers. But a lot of them are excellent, and they are as much aligned with you as maybe you are. Like, maybe it doesn't seem that way, that they're not as passionate, but that's their business too, and they do these things day in, day out, and they become deliberate practice. They become excellent at that particular skill set. And so I would suggest, one of the best traits of a leader and of a founder is knowing when to loop in someone else or another third party that can come in and do something better than you can. And again, as you grow and as you scale, you may take some things in-house again, and you may start to get rid of
your team and stuff. Yep.
There is a point, I believe. You have to kind of measure at what point does hiring someone full-time for PPC, hiring someone full-time for managing a warehouse, at what point does that become more cost effective than a third party? And again, sometimes remaining extremely lean and almost digitally focused, and then, with almost everything outsourced, can be an easier way to run the business as well. So I think it really comes down to, what do you as a founder want? What are you prioritizing? And also, more importantly, what is your timeline? If you're looking to exit in the next, let's say, 2 years, really driving the profitability of the brand and maximizing efficiencies is a good thing. But if you're thinking about longer term, it might be beneficial to invest in something in-house where you can train someone and they can learn and adapt and become extremely proficient
at your your products and your account and your brand, for sure. One thing also I wanna talk about, because you have acquired a lot of brands, you constantly are talking and looking at brands from the point of view of an aggregator. And as Accel Club, what are you, if I were to ask you, okay, I want to sell, I want to add some more products to my portfolio, what would you suggest? Because the reason why I'm asking you this question is because I constantly get this question, but from a different perspective. What product should I sell? Should I go in the home category? Should I sell this? Should I sell a seasonal product and make money? Should it be a recurring revenue model type of product? Should it be an evergreen product? And what are the positives and negatives? So from the perspective of an aggregator, if I were to want to sell my business in a few years, what are you guys looking for? And what types of products should I be selling as a brand owner?
Great question. I think the categories of products is too difficult a question to answer. Literally if there is a market for it, it is great.
If it sells, it's great.
Exactly. And honestly, there are so many different buyers out there that have different portfolio needs that I think drilling down into a category specific focus is really difficult. But you mentioned a couple very key points. Number one, seasonality. Most buyers do not like heavily seasonal businesses, even if they are counter seasonal. So if they're not Christmas, if they're summer being sort of the traditional counter seasonal, on the side of seasonal, I would say it can be quite very lucrative, but you're really, you're kind of betting on one very short duration of time in a year to guarantee that you generate the number, the revenue required. That's difficult for a buyer. That's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of lumpiness in cash flow. Lumpiness in cash flow is never nice. All buyers, all financial institutions like consistency, stability, flatness. So I would argue seasonality, probably not the ideal thing. Now, if you are going to go seasonal, I would argue counter seasonal. Summer is probably better because so many products will lean towards that Q4, Q3 seasonality. So if you can find something that's Q2, Q3, I think that's really good, or at least in that sort of seasonal category. You touched on something that's great, evergreen. Products that don't, they're not trendy, that don't require constant ideation and change.
Quote unquote boring, boring products. Because most people, when they start thinking of selling a product on Amazon, they think, oh, it needs to be like a completely new invention. Not really.
Well, let me put it this way. Amazon is a marketplace. People go to Amazon to look for things. If you're introducing a brand new product, how would they even know to look for it?
Exactly.
New products, flashy products are great for things like Kickstarter or for, a really sexy D2C function where you have a great go-to-market strategy, you know how to get in front of people. But if you're looking to introduce a product on Amazon, evergreen, nothing wrong with boring. It's the Warren Buffett model. I mean, he's one of the most successful investors for a reason. Really, the unsexy, slightly neglected industries that are evergreen and are never going anywhere are a great revenue driver. And we as buyers quite like that consistency. It's safe, it's understandable, it's projectable. It's a great category. So evergreen for sure. Maybe boring is the wrong word. Let's just say it's it's very functional. It's something that you're not reinventing the wheel. I think the other big thing you mentioned, and it's a very key point, is subscription, or how sticky is the product? Is it something that people buy consistently over and over again? If there is a subscription component or a renewable component to a category, fantastic. Subscription box services were hugely successful just pre-COVID and even during COVID, obviously. Now, that model of subscription box D2C is very difficult because typically it takes quite some time to become profitable per client. Usually it's you have to discount the pricing to get them in. But on Amazon, if you can find a product that needs to be replaced constantly or replenished, this is great. I mean, Amazon even offers an ability to auto reload. Products like that are very attractive to buyers. So definitely, if you can find something that is subscription based, let's kind of go through the list. Not seasonal, subscription based, evergreen, and a little bit boring. Okay, I think we're off to the races. But again, there is no right answer to this. So many different buyers are changing and evolving their portfolio, and as the macro trends also change, this will have a huge reverberation effect on what buyers are looking at, right? So as supply chain headwinds are increasing, as the zero COVID policy in China sort of exacerbates difficult strains, this might mean that changes happen all the time, and that buyers are now looking at different things, or maybe may prioritize production facilities in the US or in Europe. So always good to kind of have a sense of what's going on at a high level as well.
Thank you so much to Sebastian and all of the incredible team at Accel Club. I would suggest that you reach out to Accel Club if you want some additional information about how you can actually exit and sell your Amazon brand, whether you're in the beginning stages or where you're at a level where you think it's time for you to probably sell your brand. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in another video with more information. Bye.